This Friday, March the 29th. It's 8 p.m. here in Moscow. It's 5 p.m. in Britain on what should have been the day that Britain left the European Union. Instead, there's division and derision in Westminster and beyond after the Prime Minister suffered a third humiliating defeat in Parliament for her Brexit deal. After the result was announced, Theresa May warned that Britain's edged closer to leaving the EU on April the 12th without a plan in place.
The implications of the House's decision are grave. The legal default now is that the United Kingdom is due to leave the European Union on the 12th of April, in just 14 days' time. Mr. Speaker, I fear we are reaching the limits of this process in this House. This House has rejected no deal. It has rejected no Brexit. On Wednesday, it rejected all the variations of the deal on the table. And today, it has rejected approving the withdrawal agreement alone.
There's more uncertainty next because, of course, this is an extremely nerve-wracking time here while Britain edges closer and closer to the cliff, it seems, without any kind of backup plan. Indeed, we saw the House of Commons vote down Theresa May's withdrawal agreement, her deal for a third time around, as a majority of 58 voices in Parliament, despite her hoping that she would just be able to break through with this agreement, allowing for the deadline for Brexit to be extended to May 22nd, as was agreed with the European Union. That indeed has not happened, despite the British Prime Minister pleading yet again for MPs to support her. She promised again to step down if her deal was supported in this particular vote, possibly hoping third time would be the lucky one. She said that this deal would avoid European elections, it would avoid a cliff edge and avoid a long delay, possibly destroying the idea of Brexit altogether. Still, this apparently did not scare MPs enough in this make or break time. So what happens next is, of course, the deadline now is April 12th, as agreed with the European Union. Certainly, there will be lots of work underway to see if other alternatives are available as soon as next Monday. Those are going to be looked at most certainly again here in Westminster. At the same time as all of this political stalemate and chaos and crisis unravels within this government and the House of Commons, we have seen some reaction already from Europe in terms of this latest vote. Donald Tusk, European Council President, has tweeted that he's calling a European Council meeting to take place on April 10th. And we know the Euro Commission, they have said this previously, that they are prepared for a no-deal scenario already, but all of them acknowledging that April 12th is now the new March 29th, which is today. And if you remember, this was meant to be the day for the original Brexit deadline to take place.
Finally, the day is here, March 29th, 2019. A historic day for Britain, marking its departure from the European Union. Or, wait a second. A day like any other, except with less clarity about what happens next than the very day the 2016 referendum shocked the world.
The UK has voted to leave the European Union.
Article 50 was triggered on March 29th, 2 years ago.
The Article 50 process is now underway, and in accordance with the wishes of the British people, the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union.
So many promises made and shattered since then.
It's within our grasp to leave with a deal on the 29th of March. On the 29th of March. On the 29th of March with a deal. With a deal on the 29th of March. We will be leaving the EU on the 29th of March 2019 at 11 p.m.
A declaration made not once, not twice, but...
Prime Minister in this House has said on 108 times that we will be leaving the European Union on the 29th of March.
Pile on 2 votes of no confidence against the British Prime Minister, her deal struck down in Parliament twice already, and the House of Commons voting against alternative after alternative after alternative, showing no majority support for any of the Brexit options.
What do you think that day is going to be remembered by now?
how we didn't leave the European Union.
The day we were supposed to be leaving the European Union, but we're not.
Show, personally, excuse the French.
It's March 29th, isn't it?
It's just March, yeah, it's just a day.
I don't think we should blame March 29th for the mess that we've made of Brexit. It's not March 29th's fault, it's a perfectly good day.
I would personally like to come up with a new date where people have scrapped that whole idea of March 29th.
Yeah. This country voted to leave the European Union, whether you agree with it or not. That's the democratic choice.
March 29th was meant to be the grand departure of the UK from the EU, with hopes of a brand new future ahead. Instead, Brexit is now a saga so lengthy and convoluted, it's hard to keep track of all the plot twists. With the deadline of the final chapter now postponed due to chaos, how this all plays out is only yet to be figured out. Reporting from London, Anastasia Churkina with RT.
Meanwhile, to mark the day that should have been, one museum in southwest England has decided to display a work by British street artist Banksy, one which, more than ever perhaps, captures the mood of the country right now. Well, these are the latest pictures we've got from the so-called March to Leave demonstration in central London. Thousands have joined the pro-Brexit rally to vent their anger over the country's faltering departure from the EU. Police had earlier warned of possible disorder at the protest. RT's Issa Ali has been meeting some of the people at the rally in Parliament Square.
There are tens of thousands of people gathered here in the Parliament Square in central London. Many of them gathered here to make the point that leave means leave. There is, of course, a big stage there showing videos and speeches on what was supposed to be Brexit Day, March the 29th, the day the UK was supposed to leave the EU. But, of course, that is now looking like it's going to be pushed back to April the 12th at the earliest. But this isn't the only stage here or the only protest here. There's a rival one just to this side being addressed by the far-right leader, Tommy Robinson, and his protest, very different, you could say, to this one here, addressing many grievances that he seems to have with the mainstream media and so on. But it just goes to show that even within those who are calling for Brexit, there are divisions in the best way to approach that. However, one thing which we've been noticing when we've been going around and talking to people is that the idea of a no-deal Brexit or leaving on World Trade Organization rules is something that the people here at this protest are quite comfortable with. What do you think of the Prime Minister's deal being voted down for the third time?
Good. It's good. No one wants it. Remainers don't want it. We don't want it. No one wants it.
How can you revoke it? Do they want a riot or what? I mean, that's madness. That's the route to utter madness.
It's not no deal. It's leaving on WTO terms a true Brexit. It's what we voted for, and we knew exactly what we were voting for in 2016.
So I think our chances are better spent elsewhere beyond the European Union, where we can engage in free trade arrangements without having to be confined to a customs union.
The European Commission today say that on April the 12th there will be a no deal. Is that something that you would say?
The European Commission want our £39 billion. They will do everything to keep us in. This is not a deal worth accepting. It's a very bad deal. And she has been stitched up by the EU. It's a bad deal. We should leave without a deal on WTO terms.
Normally Parliament Square is filled with pro-EU banners and EU flags, but today it's the turn of those on the Leave side of the argument to make their presence felt. And this military-style march taking place, plenty of Union Jacks on show. That's the flag of the United Kingdom, as many of these protesters and those parading wish to make the point that today is the day that should have been the day the UK left the European Union, but that they won't stop protesting until they reach that objective.
OK, plenty of reaction in the coming hours. Live now to Alan Sked, who's an Emeritus International Relations Professor at the London School of Economics. Professor Sked, welcome back to RT. Theresa May's deal, the deal that refuses to die, but after the third vote, is that it now?
Not necessarily. The opponents of Brexit, who are a majority in the House of Commons, will now try and find an alternative deal, but whichever alternative they come up with has to be tacked on to the withdrawal agreement, because otherwise the EU won't accept it. The irony is, although it's been Mrs May's deal has been defeated 3 times, the European Union will only accept an alternative deal that includes the withdrawal agreement, which they've already agreed to. And it's that withdrawal agreement which gives them £39 billion. So they want the £39 billion. So if there is an alternative to a deal, it still has to accept that part of it, the withdrawal agreement, which writes them this huge cheque. So it'll come back in some form or another. But the present form is one which is obviously unacceptable to the House of Commons.
Parliament's now in control of the process. Brussels is in control of the date. How vulnerable is Theresa May right now?
Well, she's very vulnerable. She's already said she's going to go. And nearly everyone is expecting a Tory leadership election in the near future. She said she would go more or less immediately if a deal were passed, which it wasn't, so that she's still around, but she's lost all real authority. She can't command a majority in the Commons, she can't control what happens in the House of Commons, she can't control her own cabinet, members of which just go their own way and vote as they please. So she really is a lame duck Prime Minister. However, you know, she's there. And she could remain there until December, but that depends on whether the cabinet get together and decide to tell her to go altogether. But I think what will happen is that the Tories will give her a few weeks, which means, of course, that she'll still be presiding over this mess in Parliament as we reach this new date of the 11th of April, which has been given to us by the Commission as the end of the negotiating process. So we'll, by April the 11th, we either come up with an alternative deal which Parliament can pass, or we leave without a deal. We may leave without a deal if the French and others just get so fed up they refuse any further negotiations.
That's been the bargaining chip all along, though, hasn't it? How realistic is that? Nobody really wants it, but everybody's been waving that around, that sword of Damocles on both sides.
Yeah, well, the Prime Minister and the House of Commons have said they don't want no deal. The European Union has says it'll reject no deal. It wants some agreement. The trouble is no one can agree on an agreement. So at one point, a deadline will be reached, and if there isn't an agreement, I presume we will leave. Or, you know, if the European Unions, the French in particular, get fed up, then they might just say, look, negotiations have reached an end. We have to draw a line somewhere. You're out. You voted to go out, and now you are out because we haven't agreed a deal.